co-founders of Reliance Health and currently running the product team. I'm an SVP on the product team right now. So where we have a team of product managers working with software engineers on the team and building software for the company.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to keep it short and simple.
Reliance Health, same thing as Reliance HMO, right?
Reliance Health is Reliance HMO.
Okay,
Reliance
we are
Health
one
is
of
the
your
parent company.
customers.
Reliance HMO is.
All right, so we'll get back to that conversation.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let me allow Bolu introduce herself.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Bolutife Awakon and I'm a brand designer and strategist.
Okay.
I currently manage the brand at a fintech and looking to open a print studio later in this year.
Okay, great.
So I can add co-founder to my titles.
Very important.
Right,
Okay.
so that summarizes me. I love music, photography, movies.
You look like Asha, by the way.
I hear that like a million times a day.
All right.
I'm hoping to meet her one day. Yeah, that summarizes me, I think.
Okay, I'm to introduce myself too, Avin.
Yes, sir.
Okay, by the way, my name is Olarewaju Olabipo Segukunle. I'm an Austin startup founder. All right, so I'm an edtech startup founder. So I delve into edtech, media, and some other little side hustles. But edtech, maybe 12 years, media about less than a year, and some other businesses. So I'm here to understand products. And one of the reasons why I'm very excited about this moment is that hopefully, I hope none of my dev team will see this video later on. So I've done some crazy things around products. So let me cite an example. I have a product now that is growing, maybe a couple of 40,000 users now. And the product came by from a conversation I had on Friday. And by Monday, we had a new product.
Wow.
And so the background is long, but because I knew that my people will still debate about the color of button, what should happen next, when they click this and that. And I'm an entrepreneur. Like I said, I'm Muslim. I didn't solve the problem now. And I need to call the customer that, can you try this thing and test to show that it's working? So I went through that route. Yes, they insulted me in the office. My media director, he will watch this video definitely because we're in the studio. He insulted it. He said one button shouldn't be somehow and all that, but it was functional. Okay. But later on, they now took their time and designed their version and built the product. But the product was already tested, validated, and it was live. So I'm really excited to be here with products so that we can trash this thing out on a very straight route so that we understand the balance between this thing. Making money and looking at fine. For example, a bank recently rolled out a new app. Better user experience. Sincerely, I can say it was better. I don't specify I'm doing to other bank or to this and that. Put the account number, this.
It comes out.
But it was very slow. I think at some point someone was discussing that. I was like, can you just give us the documentation API? Let us be using Postman to push our transaction. But developers now, they understand. Like, don't worry. As someone said, okay, don't worry. It's even the API itself that's even slow. That's the problem. So giving the documentation cannot help. So that's why I'm really excited to be here today. And welcome so much. And thank you for honoring our invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I think that we should start on that note, right? I think sometime in the week I was talking to Bolu about it, and we're wondering, at what point do you bother about branding, especially as a startup? So at what point in your product development journey do you bother about branding?
And we should clarify, startup get levels. Sincerely, I'll be, you always know that I'm always advocate for every other person in this, because it's like sometimes we talk over the regular. You can hear, oh, I have a little startup, we just raised about $20 million pre-seed. That's
another level.
So clarify that kind of startup. So startup that has less than 1K USD in their account. So how do we start? That branding, is branding our problem at that moment? So please, you have the floor.
Actually, it is.
Okay.
Actually, it's
Let me sit properly.
Matthew has an opposing view from the
That's
look of
fine.
his face, but sure, please go on.
Okay.
that's actually very fine. So we're here to.
And let us know when you want to share your slides so that they
Mingle.
can share the slide to the audience. Okay.
All right. So yesterday I was in another meeting with small businesses, and we shared like it's one of my slides in this presentation, and we got to a point where we were debunking myths,
Mm.
and then there was one that said branding can fix everything.
Packaging.
And then at the end of that session, actually, everybody could answer that question themselves. Do you think branding can fix everything? The answer is no.
It cannot.
So at the point where you're doing startup, you're, coming up with an idea, the idea can be floating, and then you decide that, okay, I want to take this to the next level. Let's start executing. You can start executing, but at the time where you want to bring this to customers, you need branding. Because at that point, if you don't, you are going to push it out in the way you know best. Whereas you should be pushing out in the way the customers
Want it. So that way, can you define brand? What is branding? Because when you say branding, all that comes to my mind now packaging.
Yeah.
Now,
actually.
what is branding itself?
So branding is not packaging.
But is packaging part of branding?
Well, there's a part. I mean, the concept of branding is because I think that term flies over our heads too much. So I like to express it in terms that, it's you and I. We can relate. Okay. So branding is moving your customer's perspective of opinion of you as a person or as a company from negative to positive.
Oh, okay.
That's all that matters.
All right.
I mean,
Okay. Now
yeah.
I'm seeing that from a different.
You are just
I thought branding
changing
is the color of
opinions.
logo.
No, it's
No,
not.
no, no.
Red is passion.
All right.
Black is.
All right, so that's part of the myth here. So
Okay.
it's not just the logo.
All right.
Okay, it's not advertising.
So are you ready to share your slides with the audience?
Well, I mean, most of the conversation we'll be having already answered in here. So
Okay,
probably we'll just continue having the conversation and not bother sharing the slides.
Okay.
So there are different journeys like that you have. Like the product journey is different, the customer journey is different, and then the branding journey is different. Having a place where all of them meet, they coexist, right? Branding is not there to threaten the product designer or a product manager or the tech team or the development team, right? We're not threatening anybody. We're supposed to be working together. Right? We need to find that meeting point to say this is what our customers want. And I saw a tweet this morning by a colleague, and then he said something around how the product team, development team, the customer success, that's customer experience, and then the marketing team, they need to find a meeting ground.
They are
and work
always
together
different
because
worlds.
they are always fighting.
Yes.
I know this with experience. They're always fighting. I know in like 3 different occasions.
I can
now
see
that
Matt
I've
is
seen
even
it.
preparing some things that you're talking about.
Matthew,
Just finish your
I
talk.
know we will fight here today. I'm ready for you.
Because Matt is a product person. All right.
It's all love, no fight.
Okay, it's all
I mean,
love.
so
Yeah,
there's no point, dragging who supersedes who. The customer should be the focus. And how do we make them happy? How do we
How do
love
we all work together
to
serve
make sure
that customer?
Exactly. My purpose statement as a person, the personal brand, is to build brands that audiences love. How do we do that? Now, everything that goes into that, all the ingredients that you mix together to make the soup, working cross-functionally with the product team, harassing the senior VP if I need to, because the customer is my priority at that point. But then I don't lose sight of the business goals.
Yes.
I know that money has to be made, so I'm not making.
So marketing's on your case and sales, like
Yes.
this one that you are telling us to pull down this thing.
Exactly.
It's still making money.
Exactly. So now, finding a balance point to convince them and say, okay, this strategy we're about to run, it will cost us a lot of money. Are we sure this thing will bring back ROI? Are we sure we're going to get money back? Are we sure our customers will love this? Are we sure it's going to breed loyalty? So now going into that strategy with clear goals, set KPIs for yourselves. I know branding, marketing, sometimes it's not measurable. You know, you just feel like you're doing billboards and then how many people are seeing it? You know, it can be a lot. It can be a lot. But then we need to find a balance point. I mean, that's like the long and short of the story. So I'll just let.
Thank you.
Mr. Matthew.
So I don't break more tables.
You've broken all the tables already.
So it's time to unleash that.
No, there's actually nothing to unleash. But to be fair, I actually do agree a lot of things that she said.
Oh,
But
great.
the difference here is, it sounds like what you're referring to as branding is what a lot of people refer to as product marketing. A lot of times, yes. Like he said, for the most part, if you say branding, a lot of people are thinking aesthetics. They're thinking
Yes, my
logos,
logo, my
stuff
colors,
like that. Now, if you ask
branded
me,
shirts.
if you're a startup but you're hungry, that's not your primary concern.
Sincerely.
But if you're talking about how the customer would
Perceive-
perceive the product, that's a different story entirely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Now, also at the same time too, as a startup, yes, let's assume you are a hustling startup, like you said, probably like
Hustling like
maybe
me.
like 5 to 10 in your team. You probably
Okay.
will not have anybody dedicated to branding.
Yes,
Everybody is hustling stuff and putting stuff together at that point. Yes, it will be easier at that point to have a common goal and be like, okay, you know what? Let's focus on building functionality first.
Yes.
Then functionality is down, is good. Then we move towards the user experience. So like let that also work seamlessly. So depending on the stage of the company, yes, that's how much you would start putting. It also counts as how much effort you put behind how you look, how people will perceive your brand and your company's brand.
You've not
and
even
stuff.
tested the MVP. I'm thinking how
Right.
people perceive you.
It's fundamental rule is to try to get something in the hands of the customers as fast as possible.
Uh-huh.
Like, because that's how you know if your product is actually working in the first place. Or if that's how
you know you even have a product to
yes,
brand.
that's how you even know you have a product in the first place. Like, you've identified your problem. You think you have the solution, but at the end of the day, your users will tell you that they're actually solving the problems. Yes. Now, once you're able to achieve that, then that's great. But like I said, so it depends on the definition of branding, which I love the way you explained it actually, because at that point it makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
If your focus is how the customers will perceive the brand, then that's something you have to think of from day one. So even if you're rolling out that product that is not yet perfect, like it's not yet good, you still have to worry about how they will perceive it. So I've seen companies that will start off there and let you, Twitter for example,
X.
something called the well now X. But back then, there's this the Twitter whale. It was like this Twitter was always crashing. It was always crashing. Everybody knew about it, but it was solving that problem. But it was always crashing. So it's almost sort of almost became like their own brand at that point too. And over time, they fixed it. That people started missing the wheel. They're like, oh, we don't see this stuff anymore. It became a running joke. Yes. So that's a good example of taking something that it's not working fine, but your users
solve the
are aware
problem.
of it.
Yeah.
Your users are aware of that. Okay, we have these issues.
I think a beautiful example, I always go to our banking apps.
Okay.
Before now, a lot of them had very terrible internet
Yeah.
banking interfaces.
Yeah.
Some
There are
still do.
some that still have
Some
very
still
terrible interfaces. But because your problem is not to come and see, did I transfer money?
Just
Did it
go
get to
on.
the customer,
Yeah.
the end user? Fine, then you move on. So we usually don't pay attention to
Aesthetics.
the aesthetics. And funny enough, almost all of them just got used to it until when this other new generation banks, I think that it's like demography is really catching up with them and started packaging and
Yeah, it also depends on the audience you're targeting as well too. If you're targeting an audience that isn't very, like, let's say an older audience, yes, then you probably
You
get
don't
away with
send
a lot of things. You get away with a lot of things, yes. But with a more youthful audience, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
And roll out stuff that will actually be pleasing to them as well too. Everybody loves Apple products is a very good example of how you can steal your customers' love just by having a very good aesthetic
Experience.
product. That it may not be the best out there,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
it's just beautiful.
But your
to look
loyalty
at.
is just stand with them.
Yeah.
Even when they release rubbish.
You will just love
I know
it.
this is pure rubbish.
Like,
You
you release
still buy it.
You release it very, release it well, and the rubbish looks fine.
And they package the rubbish well.
Package it well. Yeah.
And they tell you, I don't give you charger this time. You just accept it.
I mean, you win this charger.
You will still bite.
And you still buy it that same way. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Is that you people paused and waited for me? Well done.
It's like we forgot you.
You're pilots now
But
after all.
can they hear you with the mic?
Please confirm that you can hear me. I think we can.
Okay, they said yes. All right, good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so I mean, on that note, I think that I would first. I think the way the conversations would go is we would start with product development,
Okay.
then we move on to branding. Because honestly, if you don't have anything, I don't know what you're branding.
I think she has a different opinion.
No.
No, I don't.
You don't. Okay, so
Based
she
on
just
what
has
she
product.
said,
Yeah.
based on what she said, actually,
Do
No-
you want
no
to?
fighting,
You,
no
you
fighting.
can't. You can't.
We're civil people, please.
Please. Okay.
Children of God.
So, Matthew, I think that the first question I would have for you is how do you approach the product development process as a person? First things first, as a person, then in your company.
as a person,
Mm-hmm.
well, it's the same thing with sort of still doing the company anyway. Just with the company, is there's more processes involved that you have to be a bit more careful. But as a person, my philosophy is very simple. It's like just get it done as fast as possible, and then I trade over time. Like you fix it over time, and primarily, and this is something that has changed like with experience and over the years. Depending on how big you are, or how small you are, that's how much risk you might have in terms of if you fail, the potential impact of your failure. Yes, so as a big company, you have to be a bit more careful. But as a small startup, you have a lot to like. You have a lot going for you. So you don't have that many users, so you can make as many mistakes as you want, learn from there and go. Now, if you're asking about product development within the company, yes, it typically would start from, let's say, start of the year, or the previous year. What are our goals for next year? Yes, start from the company goals, and then from the company goals, you trickle down to what initiatives are you trying to will come up to solve those goals.
Okay.
So you try to run like an OKR-driven approach towards solving these problems, and then from those, from once you've identified the problems that you're looking to solve, you're looking to address the next year. Then you now start thinking of initiatives that will address that will solve these problems.
Okay.
At that point, is you want to always check and make sure that your solution can work as fast as possible. Now, it doesn't mean you might actually have to develop it. From research, you can actually start checking to see whether or not this thing is actually going to work. Now, I can afford to say research on that because we are big enough for us to afford to do research. Yes. A smaller startup might maybe skip the research part a little bit and just try it out first. Again, like I said, it depends on how much you can risk. But yeah, if you have the bandwidth to do proper research, you have to do it. It makes sense. There are some no-brainer solutions that that will definitely work where you can skip research, but it's always safer to at least have some data that you can work with to just help you justify this thing that you're doing. Now, I always advise people to test as early as possible. Yeah, so even if it's from prototypes, you don't have to actually get developers to build stuff. You have a female design, convert to the prototype, let people play with it. There are tools out there that can help you to validate the prototypes out there. That with like remote testing is a thing now. Thank God for COVID. Well, no, that's not something to see on live. But yeah, so the faster you can test it, get people using it and playing with it. Yes, even before you apply engineering resources to that stuff, because that's more expensive.
Yes, we keep hammering on MVP. Yeah, we've been saying it over and over again.
And you have to go back from the design phase, like test from your design phase.
Okay,
before engineers even
have
come
anything
in,
attached to the back end, just test the user experience.
Just start from there. Because again, depends on the stage of the company. There's some companies where at the early stage you may not be able to do that much, but after a while, that's the approach you always want to go with. Yes, so you don't apply too much resources when you're not even sure of a solution yet. Once you've confirmed it, validated it, you have the data backing it up, you have people actually playing with it and say, okay, this makes sense.
Okay,
then you can now go as further as developing it. And then, but testing is something that over time the importance of testing just increases the larger your company gets.
Okay,
so let's say assuming when you start initially, you test after you release. Like after launch. The larger it gets, you have to start test the design phase, test just before you develop, test after you develop, test launch, and then you test again after you launch again. So because you have to be sure.
I have to interject a little. So Chika, I'm just trying to reiterate on one of our guiding principles.
Right.
Whenever anybody is here, thank God we've had people of your big caliber here. We always plead with them that anytime you're giving us scenarios, bring your own experience into it.
Okay.
Give us in contrast to your own personal experience or your personal brand or your own, for example, talking about products.
Yeah.
Now related to, for example, Reliance HMO. What got my attention to Reliance? I was scrolling on social media and I saw a not expensive ad, just a very simple ad. Somebody spent 5K on pizza, another one spent 5K on HMO. At the end of the day, malaria came. The pizza is gone, but HMO came for the other one. And I was like, somebody thought properly about this. And that's when I think they were about choosing a new HMO in the office. I started asking questions. Then fortunately, we have a very young, interesting human being in our dev team. I won't mention his name, but it might stumble on this video later on. So I'll keep his privacy. Then he came and said, it works. So that HMO works. In fact, I can get referral code. So he went to HR and said, HR, don't worry, you can use my referral code. Let them know I'm the one that referred you guys. So I think it was just coming from, he has not started his service here then himself. So from that, long and short of it, every one of us are on the Reliance HM, including myself.
Nice.
So I want you to relate this conversation so that people can understand that apart from this English you are speaking, you are solving real problem and how you came about that product. There were several HMOs around, there were a lot of, but I saw that this is like, these people can relate to the young community. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
I'm still under 18, and when I saw that, okay, yes, these are people that can speak my language. Not that I will call customer service. What Baba is telling me that, yes, not like I have a display for the Babas, but they might not be able to relate to the needs and the wants of. So, for example, you are giving a 20-year-old guy and say that we are giving you free X-ray when the guy wants gym. Do you get the point?
Yeah.
Yes, you are sorry because his X-ray is important, right? But the guy wants to flex, wants to go to the gym and at least subsidize my subscription and all of those things. So, how did you come about that Reliance product? So, as you're talking this product thing, please be relating it to.
Okay. Sorry, before Matthew speaks, I want to reiterate that I love the product.
Oh,
actually,
another testimony.
Yeah, I do.
Testimony time. Don't worry.
The first time I heard about it was for my, I think last 2 places I worked, and we're looking for where to. And it was the first time I was going to experience telemedicine. There were several times that I went on there and then spoke with a doctor or with a pharmacist.
Offline.
And every time, right,
Offline,
on the app.
offline.
And
Did you
every
say
time
offline?
they say, and then every time there's I send pictures, when I have a problem and I send to support, they respond almost immediately. And then that problem gets fixed the next time. I'm like, how this guy is doing this stuff, right? And they'll send your drugs to the closest pharmacy to you. And I'm like, wow, that's the first time I was experiencing that.
Most times when I walk into the hospital, I only go in when it's critical. So my people know me. So, and I've seen a picture where I've walked to hospitals and the first they ask you that, cash pay your HMO. Once you mention HMO, they say,
They'll leave
and I know that I don't have that
leave you
energy.
one side.
So I just tell them most times, please cash.
Let me move on with my life.
And I move on with my life.
keep it
Please don't try to validate anything. But when this HMO Reliance, okay, at least I've paid now. It's not small plan I choose. So I
As
said,
the organ that you are.
No. See, life is very important. Everything, every other thing. So if we can afford to spend on food, I think healthcare is very important. And like I said, I've been so critical because of my stress load and all of that. And I tried the HMO. Okay, and they gave me referrals to go for scan. From the hospital, quick response. Went to scan, quick response.
Absolutely.
But I can't be falling sick now, so there's no point in doing it.
Trying this thing up and down.
But the experience was so sweet and seamless.
Yeah.
And at some point, I was like, okay, don't worry. When I need it again, I'll know
it's
I'll know it's there. It's just there on backup.
Yeah.
So now you can see you've gotten 2 testimonies, and this is free advert placement. So Matthew, please, you see me after. You see me after service.
We'll discuss.
So now tell us how you saw, because like I said, there were a lot of HMOs. How did you see that gap? How did you test your products in that gap? And how has the journey been since then? So that it won't be just English and all of us can really learn something, because I'm here to seriously get that.
Yeah. Okay. But I mean, I'm trying to say how I can do this without going like way too. Actually, let me even start from, because we need to be. I don't know how many people are aware, but we didn't start off as Reliance. We had there was a telemedicine company that we started with called Kanpe. This was as far back as 2015.
Oh, wow.
I knew Kanpe.
Yes. Okay. So that's how we started.
A new company.
Now Kankwe was the promise statement was very simple. One of the co-founders, the CEO, is a doctor. You get people talking to you after.
Kanko
outside
was an
work.
idea at some point.
Not idea hub, not idea
Okay,
hub,
alright.
but yeah.
Mhm.
So we were never really in one place. I was in
Okay,
school,
okay.
the other guys were around. So, but yeah, so doctor, I'm pretty sure every doctor can relate to people asking them questions when they're off duty, and it's
Mhm.
like, let me rest now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea was, how can we solve this problem? Yes. So, built an app. Obviously, early stages, nobody's testing anything like that. But I had like a design background and an engineering background as well, so that helped with shipping
Okay.
the product, at least to the best of our capability that time.
Mhm.
And then obviously started free, come in, talk to a doctor. I mean, the sell was easy for the doctor side. We had a long list of doctors waiting to join in because and then getting people to join was not the problem. Getting people to use it was, but people didn't really see value and stuff like that. So at that point, we were leveraging on community-based growth. So getting ambassadors to talk about the product and get people to sign up. That's how we
Okay.
started at the very early stages. Then, I mean, after at some point, we start making money now. So what we first did was we did like a test. So we weren't actually going to collect any money at first, but we just told people to pay. Oh, you want to talk to pay. So you click the pay button and be like, it's not working, but your stuff will still go through. But we use that to sort of get the idea of people actually would pay for this stuff.
Okay, so there was a pay button,
There was the pay button,
but
there
we
was
will
some
not do the
payment.
but it
request
was,
payments.
yeah, but you won't collect any money from you. So, but you just did that to just validate that okay, people would actually pay for this stuff.
So people still go ahead to click it when they see pay written.
Yeah. So it won't charge you, it won't do anything, but you actually, but we're logging the numbers at the back to say that okay, people are actually interested in paying stuff. So eventually, we started collecting money, obviously, and then this was like I said, 2015, 2016. So people were not very used to card payments at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was very tricky. So what we did, there was this really brilliant company. I don't know what happened to them, but they would allow you to collect payments via recharge cards, which everybody was buying at the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we rolled out with both card payments for the people that want to use card, but also we recharge card payments so that we'll be able to get as many people as possible. So buy recharge card, scratch it, put it there, and then we'll accept that as payment. Every other thing happened in the background.
Wow.
So that's how we started from there. And that was like validation for the work that you're doing to show that okay, you actually achieve some level of product market fit.
Yeah.
And then the other problem that we had, spoke to a couple of users, asked them about the product. And then we started seeing cases of people coming back to ask to talk to the doctor frequently, ask the same questions again. We were like, okay, you were supposed to go to the hospital after your last conversation, but you didn't go. What happened? Oh, I can't afford it. New problem.
So the products raised another.
Yeah, so
Okay.
at that point you have a new problem then. So the question will now be, okay, how do you solve that problem? So luckily for us, that was around the period that we're going to YC.
Yeah.
And but to be fair, the question was, can it be $1 billion company on telemedicine alone? That was the question at the time. So we decided to move into health insurance because again, we had some inside information about how health insurance works, and we could see the value that it could bring.
Yeah.
But we could also see the gaps in the way it was being run at the time.
Wow.
So we were like, okay, we can probably jump into this other product. And the idea was to see how much we can cover that end-to-end healthcare journey. And again, trying to keep the customer, trying to keep the users in top of mind as well as possible. So you've solved the problem of access to the doctor, but now there's the problem of bills. So collect a little bit of money from them and cover their bills at the hospital. That's the next problem. That's the next problem in time. So that's how the insurance bit started. And typically in Nigeria, most insurance companies would do corporate insurance holding for understandable reasons. Lesser risk. You will be able to mitigate your risk better, and you probably get more money that way.
And you get better projections. You can calculate your things.
Yeah, but we wanted to do something different because again, the telemetry products was B2C, and we were going directly to people. It wasn't corporate.
Yeah.
We had a corporate idea at some point, but we just did the health insurance part. So we decided to roll out retail as well, which is health insurance but for individuals, which was something that's basically everybody advised against. So, but we started with corporate first. Did corporate for a couple of months, but we knew that we needed to address the retail market as well.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
Nigeria
obviously,
is about the numbers.
yeah. So there are a lot of experiments there. If I start to know it today, so, but I think, for retail worked out pretty much fine, and I think where it helped us the most, which is where branding and awareness, marketing awareness coming, it helped to validate the relevance of the company. Yes. So for corporate guys, selling was slightly difficult. They don't know how your product works. They've heard it, but yeah, like the new guy in the system, they don't trust you
They don't
immediately.
trust
Yes.
you, yeah.
But for retail, it's cheaper. You can easily test it, and word of mouth
Just
was spreading
5K.
like a whole lot.
Sharp. That's
Actually,
it. Is it working?
actually 3.5, not even 5K.
It was 3.5 there.
Still 3.5.
Wow.
So, so what we were doing was using the retail products to validate the corporate products.
products,
So if you have individuals talking about you and saying your stuff works,
So that guy did your retail product, and he came back to the office to convince the entire office.
to do the
Sat down with
corporate stuff.
HR and made sure that we moved to Reliance.
Precisely. Yes.
Amazing.
That's an ambassador.
So
Amazing.
so that was it. So the retail product was basically what helped us achieve the level of awareness that we have now. So it's probably one of the things that really strengthened our growth in Nigeria here. And then once you test it and you use it and you realize you see the value in it, yeah, at that point you can't go away again.
Yeah.
You're stuck.
Amazing.
But yeah, so that's like. Well, I mean, still okay. How much time do I have? That has to go.
Let me check. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, because still on the area of testing. So because we even with the health insurance, the other part was now the quality of care that you receive. Now we work with a lot of third-party hospitals. We can't control the quality of care there in every single one. So what we started doing at the time was looking at our data to find out where we have the most volume of users seated and the kind of care that they want. So we're seeing like groups of users in a particular location and doing like primary care. Primary care was our largest cost driver at the time. So we now led to the idea of setting up a clinic because you want to fully cover the end-to-end journey of the healthcare. Yes. Again, started with access to a doctor, then paying for the person, now guaranteeing the quality of care the person receives at the hospital by building your own clinic as well. So
Wow.
so that was the third step. And obviously experiments, we didn't know whether it would work. So we started with one. Started with one clinic, set it up, had people go there, check to see whether or not this made sense. Turns out it did make sense. Launched 3 other ones as well too. So basically the whole idea is you try something out, test it. If it works, then you can roll out a little bit more
Beautiful.
and scale.
Amazing.
You just delivered me of something. We'll come back to that. So now, you've given us the end-to-end of the product side, or at least starting the products. But one thing that you guys did along the line was still this branding thing. Because if you had frustrated that young guy with his 3.5, you wouldn't have gotten the whole office.
Yeah, no arguments there.
So now, Madam Branding, can you explain to us in context? Because I really like having context and scenarios.
Yeah.
So can you now explain to us what they did right and how other people can? Definitely, not everybody can copy and paste Kankwe's model. I'm saying Kankwe now.
It's fine.
Reliance.
One and the same.
Reliance model. And so, how do we, for example, me, I'm EdTech.
Yeah.
I can't say because of the quality I was going to be in my own school. Maybe when I hammer, when I get there. But he had said he validated something. That product I said we created over the weekend, from Friday and Monday, products came up.
Yeah.
On a Friday, I was going through our data. That's why data is very important.
Yeah.
Very, very necessary.
We had a school management, right? I'm in EdTech. And school management already covered enrollments, a lot of school managements were trying to cover, be all in all. And at some point, I discovered that it's like schools were getting tired of you being everything. So, for example, we made you come in and say you are school management. Don't worry, we have something. Even when some parts of what they have that is all in all is not functional, it's not properly functional. So we came up with the idea of breaking it down into segments. So we approach each school based on their needs and their problems. We are not school management. So that idea came from enrollments. So what happened? We already have the enrollment model as part of regular school management rights. Then while working through the data, we saw that, okay, for school A, we saw some set of users registered. Bam. School B, almost same set of users again. These same users came to this second school. School C. And these forms are not small forms I just fill in 10, 15 minutes. There's no ancestors, mother, maiden name there, but there are some details you have to fill, father's details, mother's details, child, previous school. So, like, these people must be so desperate, not desperate like desperate, but they were very keen on making sure that the child gets into some set of schools.
Yeah.
And when we checked that, we discovered, okay, they were mission schools. Majorly Catholic mission schools. So it was the same set of parents that were applying to school A in Abuja. If my child didn't get to Abuja, we'll get to Port Harcourt, get to Lagos. So we were applying to 2, 3, 4. I'm like, okay, let's solve this problem. If they fill the form once, can they use that same data to apply to multiple schools? And that's what gave birth to examcenter.ng. And the idea was simple. Create your profile. Don't pay anything yet.
Yeah.
Just create your setup profile. That profile means that you are filling your name, your spouse name, which is father or mother, the name of the child, current class. And the time you pay is when you now see the available schools that are accepting admission. Your payment just does something simple. Copies that data you've provided and sends a copy to the school. Once your payment is validated. And guess what? Because parent doesn't have to fill the form over and again. A parent that was applying to 2 schools before now started applying to 3 schools or 4 schools. Schools that were getting maybe 500 applications, I get like 1,000 applications. So it was win. And to make it easier, we didn't charge the school for the solution. So just told the school that, oh, do you need more students? Don't worry, don't pay us anything. When parents come, don't pay us anything. Now, at the point of submitting the application, let's say the application is 10,000 naira. Can you just pay us 1K for processing fee? Although we started like with maybe 250 or 500 naira or something like that. But because we solved that problem properly, they were willing to pay the fact that they don't have to go all the way to the school and pick up a form and submit and all that. Unfortunately for us, some of the schools made us the sole entry channel to their institution.
Okay.
Right now, Exam Center is serving tertiary institutions in Lagos. Not just, so they have their own custom-made exam center. So, looking at that, it's really shown that from one solution we're trying to, some school management, we saw the gap in enrollment, then we saw the gap in payment, saw the gap in learning management. Learning management is what gave birth to this studio during COVID-19.
Nice.
So, it's validated that that is really something that works, not just something that worked in school management or something like that. It's a solution, it's a way that every founder should start thinking about. If your solution was to carry people from Lagos to Ibadan, and see a lot of people are dropping at Mowe Ibafo, then you have to do something about what's going on in Mowe Ibafo. And that's where you started looking at your data and really appreciate that. Now, Madam, branding again. They did beautiful products. What did they get right about branding? That we can easily copy, not copycats like you said, but we can emulate from them and see that, okay, I can't tell my own school management and say it's 3-5 per person. Now, you are sending me back to Ibadan. So, how do we get it right? Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate the fact that when Matthew started talking, he mentioned that he recognized the fact that they needed branding, right? And branding is not just something you go and start or something you say, it's time to start branding. Somewhere in your mind, you have started doing some things that you didn't realize was branding. When I was giving an example of, moving your customer's perspective or the world's perspective, even from this negative mindset that they have about you or an opinion they have. I'm a person now. If I'm not in the room, what do people say when I'm not there? Do they say I'm arrogant? Do they say I'm a scam? Those perspectives that people have made up in their minds to say, okay, this is who this person is. This is who this brand is. They have scammed me before, and that means that they are very bad. They are scammers, and everywhere I go to, I will preach that they are scammers. All right. So at that point, they have been reiterating the product from the launch. They realized that they were trying to solve a problem. And what I always say when I'm talking about branding is this very popular statement by Simon Sinek says, start with why. It's very simple, right? The logic is, why do we exist in the first place? What is our belief system? What do we believe in? Do we really believe that we're doing something socially responsible? Are we building this product that is impactful to the world? By the time you start thinking like that, you started it already. You have started branding. You just didn't know.
You just didn't.
It's not
even
like
you don't have a logo yet.
Exactly, it's not a label. Actually, branding is not. I mean, the logo part is like the last stage of branding, actually, and it doesn't come right in the forefront. That's what will be interfacing with people, right? People that have not interacted with you, and so there are experiences that people have had with your product. You got that data from that. You got feedback, right? I assume that you sent out surveys, you did market research. Those are some of the data that informs the decisions that you make, right? So those small things that you've been doing, how can we help solve this new gap that we have seen with our customers? How do we make them happier? We have satisfied this need. How do we move from here? Where do we go from here? To say that, okay, from end to end, they don't need to stress about their lives. And do these solutions that we are building, this product that we say we are building, is not just because we want to raise funds, because we want to raise money, because we want to be the big boy, or because we want to add co-founder as our title. It goes beyond that. And once you already have that purpose cut out for you, every other thing will start falling in place. You have your purpose, you know what you're doing, you know how you're doing it that is different from everybody else. Those things, that's like the foundational aspect of branding. And once you already have that cut out for you, it only goes higher. All right, so that part where you do logo, where you do colors, fonts, actually brand identity, and that comes after strategy.
Brand identity, yeah.
All right, and the identity is what people see, right? I usually say like, anytime I'm giving an analogy of a brand identity is just like I can recognize Mr. Larry by his face.
Larry. In case the vessel of my life is outside there, it is Larry.
All the same, I will stick with Mr. Larry. But the investor has heard now that
I'm Larry, just in case.
All right, so I can recognize you by your face. I know that you wear glasses. I know that
it's kind that caused it.
I know, right? I know like your hair looks like this. So if I see you somewhere, maybe far away somewhere, and then this person looks like Mr. Larry. All right, that's the same way brand identity works. Okay, it's what you're recognizable by physically, right, visually, with your brand. And then it's not just about face alone. I mean, it's not just about logo or, verbal as well. There's verbal branding, communication. When you see, what do you think about? Exactly. So, sonic branding, there are different things. Your sensory organs, how do they interpret this thing when I see it, this color when I see it, what comes to my mind? This sound when I hear it, what comes to my mind? And there are different things that are working all together just to, place you somewhere. In the rest of the world, there's so much noise going around everywhere. So where do you sit in the seat of in the mind of your customers? Where do you sit in the mind of your consumers? And what do they say about you when you're not there? Right? That's what really matters in branding.
Something that she raised is a serious matter. And I know this conversation is not around it. And that's where IP battles come. Because the fact that a sound is already attributed to a brand, and you mistakenly use that sound.
Oh my God.
Slogan,
you don't mistakenly do that.
Something, or you do that mistake on the mistake.
Oh my God.
Then you see the trouble. And so, how do we now do it such a way that most times branding, people will say that you must stand out. But from what you said now, you said that sometimes you might want to relate yourself to an established brand. So how do you do that safely? Let me give an example. What can be the fastest thing? Okay, sometimes when you think of HP, Windows comes to your mind. You can't think of HP and macOS come to your mind. Something's wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. They are two different brands.
Yeah.
But somehow, when you think of them together.
Yeah.
So when you're saying I'm buying HP, like you say, is it Windows 10 or Windows 8 or Windows 9? So it's connected.
Yeah.
So is there a way startups can leverage, because I'm always an advocate of complementing than competing.
Yeah.
So basically product bundling.
Yes. You don't, this life is not, it's not war.
It's not hard.
It's not that hard.
Yeah.
So if you can complement somebody, why try to compete?
Yeah.
If person has solved the problem to an extent and you are continuing from one side, just converge and all that. So how do we do that safely with branding? Know that it has positive and the bad part too.
Yeah.
So for example, I run school management. There was a particular commercial bank that approached us some years back. We wanted to roll out and all of that. once one of my senior mentors told me that if you roll out with this brand, mom, you are in trouble. I saw it as, Father Lord, our breakthrough has come finally. But after that, and it's somebody I respected so much, after that statement, I slowed down. I really, really piped down. And I went, because he must have seen something. He said he's not talking faster, but he knows. He said he gave me some steps. What will happen then? This will happen. Then this will happen, and you will not be able to do anything about this, and that. When he gave me the end from the beginning, it's not the alpha and omega. I just really came back. So how do we safely manage that brand complementing process, where we know that if, for example, even when I even complimented the brand from the beginning, we're all fine. Then one of us has entered trouble. How do we like God and say, please, so for example, let's say Windows started crashing. Will HP go and all of us know that it's really HP has nothing to do with Windows, but most of you came with Windows. How many HP systems come with Mac with Linux? Most of them come with Windows. But when Windows has issues, how will you come out and say that please, so is this other part of the brand
different from me?
It's different from me? So those things, I want you to touch on it a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So
and that also comes to you too. You know that not all of your hospitals before will be, some of them will be in line. How will you make sure that you differentiated that brand and, without making it look like you're not taking responsibility? That's what I'm trying to say. You know, say that is that hospital, don't go to that, don't ever go down again. They are useless. We will remove them. Do you know that kind of action? We will remove them. We think of removing them since they're very useless brand. All of those things. How do you manage that dynamics? Because whatever they do to the customer there, they're not just the hospital's customer, they are your customer. So how do you so let's start from the branding side and we'll go to product side.
All right. So in that concept, it's actually called co-branding. Right? And it starts from, as a brand, I'm a business. I know who I am. I'm talking about the business now. Yes. No, I mean everything is scriptural, right? Let's not quote scriptures. All right. So I know who I am, right? Then I'm on that solid rock. I'm quoting scriptures again. Oh my God.
This is deep. Okay.
Okay. So I'm on that solid rock. That's like the foundation. I've gotten my internal brand right.
Yeah.
I know the purpose I serve.
Yes,
I know my mission. I know my vision. And I have these values that people want to be aligned with. All right. Once that is set, at the point of partnerships, you know, when you're looking out for other brands that you can come in contact with and then build something together, right? You're offering a product, they're offering a service or so, and everybody's coming together to say, we have a common goal, let's solve it together. All right. So at that point, you are looking out for people who have similar brand
values
like you. So there needs to be like an overlapping, right? For it to work. It's just like a relationship now. You cannot work with two people cannot work except they agree. I'm on fire. Amos 3-3. So that's that it works. So I like to, when I'm talking about business branding, like I still bring it back to personal. Like this is how we interact because that's how it is.
Has no personality.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a human. If you can put it like that, right? So you're looking for people whose values also align with yours. And at that point, you know, when you're talking about HP and Windows and all of that, they realize that to get separately they cannot exist separate independently, right? So they need to coexist. The OS cannot be working in the air now.
Definitely.
So it needs a hardware to support it. Okay, so at that point, they're looking for people who have similar interests, similar goals, similar values, a similar purpose, with similar, impact in life. And then they're coming together and then doing it together, right? I was at an event some days ago, organized at our office, right? Embedded finance and how, can build infrastructure and other, maybe other tech platforms that wants to embed finance can leverage on our own infrastructure and all of that. Because we are thinking of consumer in mind. The world is big enough, the sky is big enough for everybody to fly. And once we operate with that mindset and we know that we're solving a particular goal together, I don't think, rather than competing, right, we should actually be complementing, just like you said. Thank you. Or collaborating. Thank you.
So, Mr. Reliable Reliance.
So
Do you check the brand values of the hospitals first? Like,
um,
bring your core values before you come on board. Let's see your core values.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, but something that I mean, I agree with what you guys have said so far. It's the overlap, like you said, the overlap is really where it matters. So you guys, have, before you in the if you're looking for a partner, you guys need to align on what you both need, how can it be beneficial to each other, yes,
Yeah.
and then from there, that's typically how you develop that partnership and grow it.
Yeah.
Now, if what you said, one person starts to misbehave in that partnership, yes, that's the point where you remind each other, okay, yo,
Remember that.
this remember what we are doing at the very beginning. We need
Remember
to,
we
we
started.
need to be accountable to each other.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
And a lot of times is you have to. Sometimes you may take the fall for the other person every once in a while.
Yeah.
If you're in the place to do it, you do it. But you let them know that whatever you do is affecting my business too, or it's affecting my product.
So
as
at
well.
some point you took the fall. You have to take the fall.
At some point,
You have to.
you have to take it for that brand. Because again, like I said, like you said, for example, for Reliance, now we are the ones that are bringing in the customers. Yes.
Yeah.
And so even though some people demand for some hospitals, some people make requests for some hospitals, which is fine.
Yeah.
And if that happens on our network, we are responsible for making sure that they give you the best care. Yes. And then typically, if you have an issue with the hospital, you will ask us. You talk to us, and we will talk to the hospital.
Yeah,
That's it.
okay.
So, but data also helps out a whole lot.
Yeah.
So we would typically ask you about your experience at the hospital. How did that go? What was it like?
Feedback.
On that. So the moment you see there's a particular hospital that is having series of like issues, then you can start discussing whether or not to take it out of the network and stuff like that. So, but I think long story short, because you guys have actually said most of the key stuff. It really depends on how you guys can stay mutually beneficial.
Yeah,
To each
mutual
other,
benefits.
yes. To each other, yes. And then just make sure you hold each other accountable. At the end of the day, it starts with you guys need to make sure you agree. Like your
it has
SLA
to.
must be on point.
Yes.
And then from there, that's what used to determine the rest of the partnership together.
In our own business, we link up schools to payment processors for school fees collections. And whenever a payment gateway is down, they will not shout the name of the payment processor.
No, it's you.
They will say RevoCube is not working.
Yeah, the one they know. Yeah.
When NIPS is down,
Nobody cares.
and RevoCube is not a payment processor, we linked you up.
Yeah.
But we have to take the responsibility. We tell, oh, sorry, send us the reference.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
take it up with them. They will now go back to the customer service of the parents and say, hey,
Exactly.
these cookies have been paid like 3 days ago. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so far, I think it still now comes to the fact that we were able to continue most of them because we built that relation over the years and we know that they will resolve it.
Yeah.
So it's easier to explain to the school administrators, okay, sorry, just give us 2 more days.
Yeah.
We'll resolve this. But imagine if you had known that these people that you are going back to go and shout and plead with, they too will not resolve it. Your call is going to be score.
Exactly.
So it's a very important one, and I think today has been quite informative. I'm looking at our time now, and some people are in the studio and some are at home, and questions might be. So Chika, over to you.
I'm going to ask one more question before we open it up, right?
Okay.
And for me, that would be, it comes to Matthew, it's like, okay, I understand the importance of collaboration. I understand the place of pushing products to the market quickly to test like viability and product market fit. But now, I think that the question for me here would be, when do you know to build or to outsource? Especially as a small firm, right?
Hey, serious question.
So this is a trap that I believe that most tech founders fall into.
Yeah.
Because you know that you have the skills. Sometimes I even believe that people are, you say it a lot, especially for the code founders, right? They are a lot more in love with their
technology than solving the problem.
than the actual solving the problem.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so because you believe you have the skill, you have the time,
Just
you
sit
can
down.
build, you just sit down
Instead
there,
of
you
going out
start
there to
coding.
network and start the business properly.
Exactly. So, at what point do you believe that you should either build or outsource, or what features? At what point do you believe that you should do that, especially as a startup?
Yeah.
This question is a
tricky.
triggering question. It's triggering. So because I'll be totally honest, yes. I used to struggle with it every once in a while, yes. So if you start off as a software engineer, you think like a software engineer typically.
Yes.
Regardless
It's
of
a
where
problem.
you are. Yes. You
Serious problem.
Your first solution is how can I solve this? Can I build something to solve this thing? Yes. So but I think if you're a small company, you don't have that much funding. You would end up having to build a lot of your solutions. Like that's the reality of it. I mean, there are accelerators that'll give you like AWS creds and stuff like that you can leverage on real quick, and that helps. Right now, there's probably a solution out there that you need instead of having to build it in house. But the question is, can you afford that solution? If you can't afford it, you might have to build it in house, unfortunately. But over time, the top of mind should always be the how do you solve this problem as fast as possible. And this problem you're trying to solve, does it align with your goals or your company's vision? Like, does it align? So, for example, I'll give a typical example for us Reliance here now. So, starting off, we built everything in house down to our HRMS. Like, if you ask us why, I don't know.
You
Voltron,
so
But it's like it's not that difficult. Let's just do it. One week after, everybody's there overnight typing code.
Wow.
And then, I mean, at scale, you realize that as a business,
managing it at scale.
It's not.
I'm not a dev shop.
We are not. We are, if you look at our company mission or vision statement, you won't see HRMS. It doesn't align with what we're doing at all.
Of course.
So after a while, you look back and like I think the idea was we had a couple of releases that we planned and we're like, why are we building this thing? So by then we planned it, scoped it out, and it was like going to be 6 months of development. I was like, this wasn't necessary. So at that point, we just got one off-the-shelf system and worked with those guys instead. And that rollout was maybe like around 3 weeks or 1 month.
Imagine.
Just
configurations and all.
Just configuration and done. So again, it depends on the scale of the company, and if that stuff you're trying to solve doesn't align with your core business, then it's fine to use a third-party system or to outsource it to someone else to build. But if it's something that is core,
if it's your main business,
and it's like, and you know that this is something that you iterate over time, then you know that you have time. You'll be dedicated to maintain it. Then yes, at that point, that's probably something that should be in house.
Yes. Beautiful.
Okay. Just a follow up on that, right? It's going to be a polar question. Pretty simple. At what point do you think about profitability when you're building your product?
Profitability is a long-term play. It's not overnight. And startups have made it difficult to, especially with like startup trends. No, it's not your money; it's investors' money. Yes, so you have the ability to take more risks. Yes,
There's some people that
just do it.
You can make money. Yeah, I know. I mean, that exists as well. So, but I'm saying compared to traditional businesses where you have to start thinking about how can I make enough money to buy my stuff again at the beginning. For startups, you have a bit more leeway based on you have funding that you can play with. Yes.
Okay.
But in the long run, that should always be top of mind. So the idea is, it's not like I said. It's not like an immediate thing. It's a long-term journey. Yes. But at some point, you have to realize that you can't always depend on investors' money. At some point, even the investors will ask you that what's your plan. So you need to have a plan. So even if your plan is expanding, if you want to double down your current market, it really doesn't matter. The idea is, at what point will you be able to break even and then start being self-sustainable? And then you know that if you're getting more funds, it's because you have a particular project in mind. Maybe you want to expand to a new market entirely. But at least this current market that you have is self-sustainable. It's managing itself. It's typically depending on kind of business I run. There's some startups that are lucky and they hit that profitability in no time. Like let's say in 1 year, 2 years. Some people will still be on it until after 5, 6, 7 years. Uber or Airbnb wasn't profitable until actually I didn't even see profitable now.
Yeah, I mean they're impact focused. They're just giving that profitability.
So it varies from company to company. I don't know if there's a point where you would know, but yeah, it just depends on what your company's vision is at that time.
Yeah.
Okay. Bolu, this one is for you. Guys, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry that
There are a lot of questions.
Don't ask any questions.
Okay.
Don't be angry.
Okay.
If you have questions, like you can see, I've been on my phone all through the while. Just simply raise your hand and then you can unmute yourself just so it's done in an orderly manner.
Check that someone in-house is raising their hand.
Say that again. Oh, someone has already...
No, in-house.
Oh, darling. Okay. I'll take one question, then we'll get to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, this one is for Bolu. And I'm going to cite an example with X. I mean, we've already joked about it, but it's really important. So the question would be, amidst disruptive technological advancements, right? How does branding emphasize the importance of ethical practices and responsible innovation? Hey. How about now?
Right?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there are lots of hands. We ain't living here today.
Can you hear now? Can you hear
Can
now?
you hear me now?
Yes.
Mm.
Did you say yes? Fantastic.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Okay, the question is, amidst the disruptive technological advancements,
I'll type again.
how does branding emphasize the importance of ethical practices and responsible innovation? Case in point, Twitter.
Said pull out the
I'm
X.
trying not to.
Omo.
I'm trying not to, we might have some Elon apologists on the call, so I don't want to upset anybody. But I comment my reserve. Of course,
Okay.
they dragged me on Twitter, but
We're still
Is this
standing.
Twitter or X now?
on X,
Brand confusion.
right? And then so I was actually going to start
Because I
conversation
wasn't
with.
aware. I saw that you shared a picture of a logo.
Mm-hmm.
Then it changes wallpaper. And suddenly my app I couldn't find the app on my phone. Like, I don't really use the app.
He kept looking,
And I'm
right?
like, okay, where's it? What happened? Oh, it's Twitter that changed to this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, was there any announcement before this?
No, they announced though.
They announced?
No. I saw images on Twitter the other day.
That's
on
where you
X.
announced.
I just saw the image on Twitter. That's all.
And
I thought, SpaceX is coming out with an app or
Uh-oh.
something.
It's the same one. They don't change
Right.
the name. They have these bright lights
Hmm.
on the office building, like it's X, like it's bright.
Yeah, projected on the
And I was
building.
just wondering
The guy.
which marketing team came up with that idea.
It was absolutely Elon's idea. Trust me. He aspired his marketing and communications team.
So he's a low ranger now.
The guy is moving on steroids.
Okay.
So back to the question. Okay, so right when I was talking about this X as a case study, and how founders should try to be more responsible. Let's try to be more responsible. In such a way that you're not doing what you want because you feel like it, right? You're thinking about somebody else. And that's where responsibility comes in, because you're not thinking about yourself alone, right? You're thinking about other people. It's not your product you're putting out, the solutions you are building, the services you are rendering, are not for yourself. If it were for yourself, you probably would not, be as rich as you are, right? You will not have made that much money
Because you can't sell it to
because
yourself.
you cannot finish buying your own products by yourself. Right, so that's I think that we should always think about it from that angle. And there are things that you want to do. I'm a founder of myself. I have founded this company and I have the say. Right, you can do that. I mean, but you need to also factor in other opinions, get feedback. I mean, that's what we have been saying since morning. Right, success is valued on feedback. And at the end of the day, it's your consumers that would still use the product and then tell you whether it's working or whether it was a waste of your time, actually. And then, but people argue with me that, I'm just a small girl. I mean, I'm not a billionaire. I'm not even close to 0.01% of what Elon has,
USD?
right? In USD, right? So,
How dare you?
it was a lot. It was a lot of how dare you and a lot of how clever you think you are. But I think it's not about knowing branding or whatnot. It's about what is responsible of me to do, right? You were confused at a point because you were not, for those of us that sleep and wake up on Twitter, we probably heard of the news overnight. There are people who woke up and they are looking for their apps. They did not know where it went to, right? So thinking about all those things, there were no communication. There was nothing of any sort to say this is it. And at the end of the day, there are a lot of litigations at the time because the trademark was registered somewhere to Microsoft, Xbox, gaming, and all of those things. A lot of people thought it was X-rated, I mean, there were so different brand associations associated with X at that
X,
point because
wow.
people did not have any idea of what was going on. So before you even pick a name for your business, right, ensure that it's
Check,
available on CSC. We have CSC registration name, right? Check
The domain name.
Domain name is available. Social media is available. It's not trademarked.
So will not be x.com now.
It is already,
It's
it's already.
X.com.
Yeah, it redirects you to Twitter at the end of the day because
It's
they have
interesting
not.
because PayPal's original name was X.com.
See? So there was a lot of back and forth because there was no thoughtfulness in it. So I think we need to
X in
put
URL. If you have a filter that filters out X or something like that,
right.
Sorry.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
it is well.
It's a lot.
Laura, can be responsible.
Be responsible, please. Tech
Okay.
founders. Thank
So-
you.
All right, so
We're going to take the question for we're going to take her question first before we go to VOO Esquire. Thank you.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Oluchi.
Hi,
So
Oluchi.
my question is to Matthew.
Whoosh.
Yes. So
see his face very well.
Am I safe?
it's related to product development with respect to marketing. So how were you able to, or what is your advice to a startup founder who's trying to build? How do you acquire, especially in the health space, acquire your first 100 users or customers? And then secondly, health insurance in Nigeria is still very, very challenges there. So
Yeah.
people, in terms of embracing it and all, especially when it comes to healthcare professionals, how were you able to, overcome challenges with onboarding healthcare professionals? Yeah, that's my question.
So those are two very interesting questions actually. I'll start with the user acquisition one. It's I don't think there's any one solution that works for every single company because it also depends on the problem, your solution out there, and then your target audience for that solution as well. So it may vary. The one thing I know is, and this is more personal advice. If you're a startup, paid marketing is probably not the way to go. Because that doesn't really. It's like basically bribing people to use your stuff. Those are not your ideal users at that time. Yes, paid marketing works for awareness, but not for proper user acquisition. So at your early stages, they're trying to still place your product in the market properly. Yeah, so you need honest users. They don't have to be a lot, but that's where you start. And then I know organic growth is typically the best that happen to you. Yes, so if you can get people to talk about your products, that's typically, and it may not scale so fast, it may not be viral, but you will grow at a steady pace that you can afford and you can actually maintain. Then you can now leverage on that, and then after you've achieved some level of stability, you can now invest into like paid marketing or that stuff. I know, nowadays 2023, everybody Googles stuff, so your SEO has to be also great as well. So if you have to go from a market point of view, yes. If there is one thing that I think we sort of scored early in the game was our SEO. So you won't Google health insurance in Nigeria, you know, see Reliance there immediately. Even back when we were Kankpe, if you just do talk to a doctor online, boom, Kankpe will pop up immediately. So that's typically how people look for solutions. So if you're not getting solution from your friend, that means you're asking somebody. That's where word of mouth will come in. You're searching online for it. So if you can at least make sure that these two areas are good enough for you, then you have a higher chance of achieving like good organic growth. And after you've done that for a very large extent, you can now say you want to start doing things like marketing. Partnerships also go a long way as well. If you can also leverage your partners, that at your startup phase, there may not be very many people that will be looking to partner with you because the question will be what do you have to offer. You're still testing, you're still early, they don't trust you that well. So you may have to make some sacrifices where you would be losing more than you're getting. For example, give it for free, let them try it out. Depending on the type of business they're doing. So if they try it out, they validate it, they see that it's good, then they can come back and pay for it. But yeah, so there isn't any hard and fast or one way to roll them all. A lot of it will be experiments. Growth hacks are a thing. Like you do a lot of experiments just to see how you can get more users. But the one thing that I would never recommend to anybody who's in the early stages of the startup is paid marketing. That's I'm not seeing value there.
And by the way, Oduayo, Although I always say something, although I don't agree with everything, but I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that as statement. She often says that charge from day one.
Charge from day one.
If they can't pay for it now, what gives the assurance that they will pay for it later? And he said that she gave that statement, and it keeps ringing my head. Like, okay, that Nigerians don't send loyalty. They don't stay loyal to you because they have their data with you and all. Data, they don't send you. She said someone that their laptop would have one small virus, format everything away and start all over like it never happened. Except if it's for the office, and definitely office will have backup or something like that. So they don't care about I built a health history on can't pay for 2 years. I'm scared of using another health app or something like that. They will port. Even if they can port, even if a media person that's advertising a brand can port to another brand and still come out saying that I have port too.
Of course.
So where's the loyalty coming from? So it's something that you have to decide for yourself. But one of the things that I really, really, really would advise, channels and communities are your best goal.
Absolutely.
If you're building an app for the healthcare industry, have you joined any of their networks? Have you joined any of their communities? Have you built relationship? Because your earliest customers, I think most of them will come for one-on-one interactions. So they are using product because they know you. Matthew ló wọn ní app kan, okay, give me chat to doctor on bed. Oh my ṣiṣẹ́, mommy Dami, come and try this thing.
Exactly.
So that's your best, and that way, and especially if it's not family and friends, they'll give you the most honest feedback.
Absolutely.
Matthew, this thing
it's not working.
You know,
it's not working. This
the
is
product is not productive.
2 hours. Nobody replied my message. But if it's family, they will still want to package, not to discourage you. Like, can you try to increase number of people on that app? They will tell you that it's because I stayed on it for 2 hours, nobody replied, which is the real feedback you'd need. And another thing is that I was discussing with somebody, I said that sometimes the way we ask those questions for the feedback has already skewed the response.
Yeah.
Because your question is not neutral enough. So for example, you're asking somebody that, let's say, how fast was the app?
I told you it was fast at all.
That's it. Instead of saying that, ask them, how long did it take to open? You've left the options open to the user to give you a pure response. But when you say how fast was it, it already knows that you're expecting him to say speed.
Fast or
fast it go. 2 seconds it has opened. I was talking to the doctor, which was not the real response. So I think all of those things come to your first channels are people that you know from communities and channels that you try to partner with. So it's to really help you a long way.
And I think carry your early adopters along. Right? So build like a community
Let them
around
feel like
them.
you are thinking about them.
Exactly. If you need something as much as, just asking for their opinions or some things, you would be amazed, how they'll be open to also lend their voices because they believe that they are building with you and not you're building for them.
And the day you add a new button, let them know. We added the red button.
Exactly.
Have you seen it?
It's not by mistake.
Now, when you click this button, it
takes
will
you
do this
there.
and this and this.
Exactly.
Keep educating them. A friend of mine was on this program. Izu was here, and he said that he told me about an industry I'm going into. I said, Larry, as you're coming into this industry and you're working with early adopters, your first job is to educate and sell.
Yes.
You first have to educate them about the problem and the solution before you now start selling what you are offering. So the first set of people that have sold cars, they are not selling V12 0 to 100 in 1.22 seconds.
Actually, do you look a car?
Do you know that you can actually go from A to B without flogging the horse?
Exactly. So that's like the first.
So so sometimes your product's coming from that angle, you might need to invest in educating people before you start selling your products.
Exactly.
And the second question.
The second question ties very closely to what he just said, which is about education. So a lot of Nigerians still view health insurance as a luxury. They don't see it as a necessity, until, God forbid something happens and then you see the medical bill and you know what's up. So education comes in a long way. Like the ad you referenced that he said stuck in his mind, where you're like, typically you spend this money on data. Money that you could have spent on health insurance, you're spending on data. And then the question is, how much value do you have for your health compared to the internet? So education is very necessary in getting people to adopt, especially in the health sector as well too. because there are a lot of traditional methods that people are used to. Like people are used to doing some of these things, and then getting them to see things from a different point of view. The question will be why, especially our older audiences. So for example, somebody going to a particular hospital all their life, and you come and tell them that, oh, how about you try this or that one? They'll be like, no, they have
I
my
was
file.
born here.
They have my file.
My father was born here. All our family files are here.
And then, or you're like, okay, no, talk to the doctor on your phone. They're like, but I can just go to the hospital. I've been doing this in all my life. I'll stay 5 hours, but it's fine. No, so sometimes education education is always necessary. You have to let them see value in what exactly you're doing. You can't force it down their throats. So you have to let them see reason in what you're doing. Yes. Yeah, and that's typically where it comes in. And then once you have a trusted source telling you that you should use this stuff, maybe like a friend or your family member or somebody that you know has used it as well too, it makes you more comfortable also adopting it. So that's where word of mouth comes, goes a long way, helping people to validate their products.
Absolutely.
I don't know if that addressed the second question.
Onboard the first set of 100 users, professionals.
Like hospitals. Oh, well, no, that part was, to be honest, relatively easy.
Do you want to take the question, the second one, so people online can hear?
So the second question is on how were you able to overcome the challenges while onboarding the hospitals and healthcare professionals?
Yeah. So health insurance, we didn't invent it. Luckily for us, yes.
Fortunately.
We didn't invent it. So these hospitals are always looking out for health insurance companies now to partner with them. Yes. The bigger ones will do a little bit of forming first to be, why should we be in
What are you bringing
how
to the table?
many how many users do you have and stuff? How many customers do you have? How many lives are you? Those are the bigger ones. But the average hospital is looking to partner with the health insurance company so that they can get more people coming in. Now for us, our biggest sell, which still works till now, is how fast we process our claims. So the average health insurance company in Nigeria will probably process their claims in like 1 month.
Wow.
6 to 8 weeks before they process. And we do it in like 48 hours.
Wow.
So that was like a no-brainer to say. And the hospitals are looking for their money. So it's like the moment they hear that, they're like, yeah, sign me up, I'm ready. In fact, we have hospitals in some areas in
And see, wow. 48 hours. Cash on delivery in here.
So for us, it was that's why I say it was relatively easy for us. That wasn't our biggest headache. Now, that other maintaining the relationship is now also where the head is where is more even difficult than bringing them on board, because you can bring them on board and then, fortunately, your hospital is in Gombe State. So like 6 months after, like I've only seen 50
customers.
people. I thought you people promised me. It's not our fault. It's not our fault. So even though we have people there, because we have hospitals all around Nigeria, yes, but obviously
There's some
There are
areas to be
there's some areas that will be
yeah.
sparse. Yeah, so you can't maintain relationship. Some people will finally go to the hospital and they hope to not remember that they signed with clients because that happens, especially like in remote areas. So they'll have to call. So what we do is constantly engage these hospitals. Like so, even though we haven't sent anybody there yet,
Just follow up with them.
we just follow up and check in. I'm like, okay. How's it going? Stuff like that. Yeah. So that they always have it top of mind. Then we have like onboarding instructions that we just go and paste at the hospital. That's there for both awareness, marketing of some sort,
Yeah.
and easy onboarding whenever a user goes to the hospital. So it was
see how to come on board.
kill two birds with one stone. So this is how you, if the person, one of the changes that we did was, normally people go with physical ID cards, but we have the ID card on our
On
app,
app, yes.
which most hospitals are not
Although
used
I'm
to.
still coming to that because app. App. Why I call it like that is because, and funny enough, that's one of the reasons why I also joined you. And so when I discovered, okay, I won't have to speak English. I want credit card. And there's app, no problem. I'll just show you on the app that I'm registered and move. But what I came to my mind is that, okay, that's because I have a smartphone.
Yes.
So, and from the data I'm seeing, this our Nigeria, I think most of the smartphones in Nigeria are in Lagos. A heavy percentage of the smartphones in Nigeria are in Lagos.
But smartphone penetration in Nigeria is actually relatively high.
It's improving.
Actually, no, it's actually relatively high, and compared to other African markets, actually, smartphone penetration in Nigeria is.
They are giving me hope now.
Like you would see, maybe the data might be slightly skewed because of some people might have multiple phones.
Yes, that's a
That
problem.
too. So, But yeah, but I think generally looking.
Chica here.
The hair.
Just like
this one is
four.
Some like 3 or 4, like 4 phones.
She has
you
some
know.
phones for different days of the week.
Yes.
This is my
Yeah.
Tuesday
Different
phone.
days of
This is my
Right?
Thursday
Different
phone.
color, matching the outfit.
Yeah.
Matching
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Don't affect our brand, please. She's on there.
But part of our onboarding process is we if it's a corporate company, the salesperson knows what
What
can
to-
engage. So
yeah.
you talk to the HR like, okay, what kind of. So we still have some physical forms that we dish out for some companies. There.
And some physical cards.
Yes, for some companies. So if we sense that you don't have a smartphone, that kind of stuff, we'll give you a physical
just-
ID card. Yes, but that's for corporates. We can do that for corporate. For retail,
How did you know? It's not app you used to join us before.
Exactly.
Go and get the ID card there, Jerry.
So-
on top of your 3-5.
Oh my god.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, no,
I know
I
you
get
care
it,
about
I
your
get
customers.
yeah.
All right.
So I don't know.
Did you answer the question? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So VO Esquire has been up. Chica,
Yes.
please.
His hand is probably
VOO
paining me.
Esquire,
Are you sure?
please. You can unmute yourself now to ask.
And compliments on the day, everyone. My
Yeah,
name
thank
is
you.
Vivian Okolo, and it's an awesome pleasure being here.
Thank you.
The topic of product development and branding, it goes way beyond just product in itself. So I'm looking at us as individuals, right, being products in our own right. And
Yeah.
this leads with the topic on ethical practices, which was one that was raised by one of the participants, where in today's business landscape, profitability and innovation is no longer the sole measure of success of an organization. So it goes way deeper than that. And then organizations are looking for long-term sustainability and social impact, right? So it's not just about profits, what the product can help them achieve at the end of the day, but there's just more to it. Now, the question for me is, how do we as individuals, in trying to build our personal brand, right, versus as a product, right, so that I don't go too far from the topic of today. How do we as individuals, as a product,
Package
balance
ourselves.
the expectations of our employers, or balance the expectations of product companies or startups or tech companies that we work with? How do we balance that interest really? Because from experience, I realized that in my field of work, right, I've seen quite a number of things, and I find lots of people being at the middle end of things, in deciding on where to go. There's like a conflict or dilemma of some sort, right? So now, how do you tend to balance both sides, your own personal brand, or you looking at you yourself as a product, compared with that tech company that you're working with or you are representing as an employee or as a service provider, so to say. Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to understand the question. Didn't get the question, but I'm trying to relate it with meaning that every employee in the company is an extension of the brand of the company.
Yeah. So I think she's asking about conflict, right?
It might not outrightly be conflict per se, but so I think the way she coined the question is, look at yourself as a product, right?
Okay.
And your value system. How do you strike the balance between you yourself as a product and
Versus the company you work for.
Yeah, versus the company you work for.
Yeah. Okay. Right. I think it's one of the conversations that we had, right, regarding talent, and it's actually an interesting question because a lot of tech companies now, they are taking employee branding very seriously. You
They check your
notice
handles.
exactly before you apply to a job now, they're asking you for social media handles.
Let's see what you are saying online.
So you not come and cover us, right? So as much as companies are becoming very conscious of the people they onboard on their teams,
People
right?
should have conscious of the
Exactly.
company.
People should be conscious because everybody has a brand. Like from what we have been saying before, everybody has I mean, different people you have met or had an interaction with have made up something in their mind as who you are, right? And that is your brand in their mind. So as you're doing that, as you're applying to roles, as you're looking out for, places to work, make sure that those places are places that have alignment with your own life's mission, your life's purpose. They align. Because if they do not, there will be some, discrepancy there. You get to now be conflicted with, do I follow through to who I am as a person? For example, if the company you're applying to, maybe they don't take ethical practices very seriously, and you as a person, you have integrity and you're a transparent person personally, and you don't like shady things, right? When you join that kind of company, there'll be conflict. Right? Because they'll be asking you to do some things that you don't think they're ethical enough or they're moral for you. And at the end of the day, it gets to a point where everybody's now wondering, like, you can't even do your work. Exactly. So there needs to be that sort of alignment, and you need to do your own work before you even get into that kind of work. Right? There was a time, some weeks back or so, some months back, when I was going to, apply to a role or something like that, and then they asked what specific thing that I want in my life that I think the brand has. So that was very specific, and I loved it. And it told me a lot about what kind of brand this is. And then it just sparked my interest. Like, these guys, they're really intentional. So that's one of the things that you can actually look out for.
I'll add it to our HR's question.
Thank you very much. Vivian, I am hoping that this aligns. The question addresses, or the answer addresses your question.
Absolutely, absolutely, it does really. I wanted us to speak to it, right?
Oh,
Alright.
okay.
It's like really it. So I wanted
Yeah.
to speak
Thank
to
you.
us
Oh,
as
absolutely.
individuals as a product. So
Yeah.
that's why I brought it up. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
And
Fantastic.
even
Thank you.
even your ID card in a company is a co-branded ID card.
Exactly.
Your face, your brand,
Exactly.
Yes.
the logo. So if
It's
you work
from you.
for a brand before
Yeah.
and you are in a new company, and so for example, there's a particular fintech. I won't mention the name. They are known for, I think I've seen several social media memes like, as you're praying the boss, they are praying with you. As you're praying in church, they are with you.
We know them. We know them.
And you have worked for that brand.
Oh,
And now you're in a new brand.
yeah.
And you have showed someone the pepper when you're in that previous brand.
It will follow you.
And now your boss has sent in a new company to go and win a customer. You come in and
They
your
will run
face.
away.
They say, no,
That's it,
no,
what?
no, no, no. And they say to Yoruba that somebody that a deranged person maybe attacked their mother. When they see a roughly dressed mechanic,
Oh.
they would adjust like, this
This
like
one can
that.
be. It can be.
So I think we have to be very conscious of that.
Yeah,
So as
absolutely.
you're signing to the company, check the brand very well, see the brand
Exactly.
alignment, so that
Exactly.
before you co-brand, before you start signing your partnership.
Exactly.
Your
Exactly.
partnership
As
with
a
them.
product.
So think of life after that work.
Exactly.
What happens? Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Abraham, your hand is up.
Abraham Crypt.
So thank you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you loud and
Loud
clear.
and clear.
Okay, so I wanted to ask because I feel the section is something around product development and branding.
Okay.
Right. So to ask, I don't know the guy there.
Mr.
There's
Matthew.
two guys here.
Is
Mr.
it-
Matthew,
Our
Mr.
boss.
Matthew. Your boss,
Our
the
boss.
boss.
Mr. Matt?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Matthew, please. I wanted to ask, what are the chances of success for a team? Let's say start up when the founder or probably the co-founders not like tech people, like they don't program, they don't do the coding stuff. I know we talk about that because
And they're trying to start a tech company, right?
well, their idea has to be bridge technology, definitely.
Leverage.
So,
We have to clarify leverage technology
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah,
core
build-
technology.
Fully tech.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like leverage technology. So it's a solution. It's a
yeah,
tech-enabled
leverage
company.
technology.
leverage. So
So it's tech-enabled.
it's
Yeah,
tech-enabled,
so
not
yeah,
necessarily
not-
tech.
not-
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's say they are solving a problem that requires them to have a web application.
Okay.
They have, yeah, something like that, but they are not like maybe one like a product person, but he's not a programmer. What are the chances? Because I see that most of the things you've done, I see that you are core in programming like software engineering and all. So what's the
Egg,
chance of
bro.
success without the basic
PP
programming
here.
skills? Yeah, exactly.
So just to put it in context, so for example, I hope you're still on the call. So for example, if somebody is trying to do, let's say, I'm trying to do recycling, but I'm using tech to map my collections and processing.
Yeah.
So that's tech enabled. I'm not a
Tech-enabled,
tech business. So Mr. Abraham, is that kind of concept compared to X?
Yeah.
All right. So
I mean, the success of the company I won't say is less dependent on
The technology,
the skill set of the founders in terms of whether or not they are software engineers or they're developers. Yes, it's the idea, it's the solution that will pretty much determine the success. Now, I would argue that if it's something that doesn't tech is you can use
just an
you
enabler.
can use software as a way to enable your solution, but it's not necessarily always going to be the solution. So it's so the question I ask yourself is as if that problem that you're trying to solve, yes, do you have your solution? Can your solution work? But it can work. Okay, how can we use tech to make it better? In that way, at that point, you'd have to be a software engineer to do that. You could work with software engineers to do it, to build it, or if you're a product person, even better. So that means you know how to work with engineers. So that's great. So
better.
you work with them to build a solution in-house or you outsource it. Anyone can work. But as long as your focus stays the same, it's like you won't try to build something too complex. You focus on what you're trying to solve and you do that. So that's what will determine the degree of success that you have. It's not really whether or not you're a software engineer or you understand tech. I've heard people say that you need to have at least one tech person in your founding team.
I think you've demystified it to extent. So the fact that one of you can take up product course is not that complicated.
Yeah.
So if you can take up, even we that we are technical founders, I definitely know that I cannot keep up with every single today you release with React,
Exactly.
you know the Angular. So what I do is that it's not like I completely strange to them if I say okay, but I will not sit down with it and start figuring it out. Because while I'm figuring the kind of business that would have flown by, and I can't account for my time that I sat down studying this new version of Angular. It did not solve, it did not pay anybody's salary. So I wouldn't rather do that.
Yeah.
So I will still have to depend on a tech team. But that doesn't mean that you can come and tell me and bamboozle me and tell me that
Exactly.
I still know the basics, all of that. So what happens is that if you can take up a product course, that way you can communicate what you're trying to do to almost any engineer.
Yeah.
And you can now, instead of having a co-founder, you can hire, if you don't want to do outsourcing, you can just hire a younger or mid-level engineer in the team. Not necessarily a founding team that can come and go easily.
Yeah.
An attempt to hold an engineer down here is like you're trying to hold the Noah's Ark down.
Sorry.
Canada is calling them.
Yeah, right.
so that you should make sure that you just understand the functionality of a product inside out. So that as people come and go, you can easily explain it. And second thing, always have a pipeline. For every key person in your technical role, there's somebody they are mentoring and is also trying to pair up with them.
Skill transfer.
As a founder, you cannot afford to hire top developers. So it's just mid-level and junior developers. If possible, get interns. This is a free advice. So you create a pipeline. Don't put intern on production, no. So, but let the intern follow with the mid. The mid follows the senior then. So let them follow in that suit. So that way, if anyone pulls out in that train, another person can shift, either come down or move up to continue, keep their continuity. And that way, you save yourself the potential headache and the breakfast of entrepreneurs.
So basically, what you succeeded to say is that there's a lot of advantage being a technical person.
It is problem.
There are benefits, but it's not.
There are benefits. Not so. Let me give a typical example. I'm a technical founder, And I'm still battling with some problems now that structurally you can hear when Izu was here and
Yeah.
we still argue on some things. I know there's some things I can hand over to my tech team. But as I'm thinking about it at 1 a.m., let me just start it. Let me just start
That's
it. Let me
where
just
the
start.
problem is.
Then
That
I'll
let
hand
me
it
just-
over.
Not necessarily.
And
a
then
problem.
headache.
As at Friday
It's
also,
not.
I
And
think
then-
I left this building around 2 a.m.
You'll be stressed.
I'm
The
going
security
to-
guard was already sleeping. I just opened the gate and I drove out of the office.
Wow.
Because that was when that thing I was trying to fix, that's
That
when
let me
it's,
just-
It's going.
that's when it was about to click. Okay, I can finish it at home. So it's a problem because you'll be distracted. You're already in love with technology. You built it like your baby.
Yeah.
Instead of going to the market and knowing, sitting down with data and watching news at 10 and seeing the dynamics of business in the country,
Yeah.
you are
Understanding
coding.
the policies.
Yeah.
And sincerely, I was in a fintech summit and one of these elder fintech men said this thing. I can't remember his name now. And he said something that I can never forget. He said even in payments, fintech, nobody pays for payments. People are paying for an experience.
Yeah.
So the fact that you are charging a processing fee and all those
premium,
things,
yeah.
they're not
Doesn't
paying you for
really
the payment.
matter.
They're not processing. They're paying for the fact that you offer the service, and that service that you were able to convey their funds from them to the merchants, and the merchants confirmed and gave them value.
Yeah.
So nobody will just come and pay you for payments. So because you must attach a service to that sense of value. So it's not a black and white thing that is good or bad. So both of them have their advantage. And for you that is tech enabled, don't look for tech founder necessary. It's not necessary because you are not core tech. Your business is not the tech. Your business is solution first, then you are using tech to enable it. So either you use Microsoft Word or Open Office. You've typed the letter, you have printed it, and that is all. So if you are opening a consulting company now and you've been doing a lot of documents, is it good to use Open Office or Microsoft Office or Google Work?
As long as they're working.
As long as you can type the documents,
Save it.
your customer got the email, you consult, you are tech enabled, but you are not a tech business. So I'll just advise you, don't create a problem that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other question?
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions?
We have about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Yeah. So me, this is where I remind everybody on this call that it's important for you to know. If you haven't read, please go back and read it. The E-myth. I'm going to look for the author again. The E-myth. It's important because you learn where to pay your to
We can't
focus.
hear you.
Hell, I'm so sorry.
Oh, what's
Please.
that? Can you hear now?
Can you hear me now? Speak up. Okay. It's important that you go back and read the E-myth. Now, the summary of the book basically just teaches entrepreneurs the varying levels, managerial levels in a sense. So, as a technician, you're bothering about, is this working? Is this not working? You're expending yourself on the basics. As a manager, you're there managing people. But as an entrepreneur,
Yeah, looking at the future.
you are building local, no doubts, but you're thinking global.
Yeah.
And so it's important that you know when to do what. Don't spend your time in the kitchen. Don't try to reinvent things. Don't reinvent the wheel. If you can, outsource what you can, right? If you're not good with people, get somebody that is good with people and let them manage whatever. Okay? Don't get so neck deep into the process that you forget the actual things that count in building the company. And so, do we have more questions before
we draw the
call
curtain?
it an evening? We have 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes. Any questions? Products? Branding?
I think I have one more question for
Yeah,
Bolu.
yeah.
Actually, it's both of them. Matthew, at what point, so branding, right? First things first is what role does brand storytelling or brand what role does storytelling play in building products? That's for you. Then Bolu, at what point should they bother about branding? Is it at the MVP stage or when they have already launched?
At the point where you're conceiving
The idea.
the idea,
You conceive the brand with it.
conceive the brand with it. You know the kind of company you want to build, obviously. And then you know the kind of expressions you want your customers to see at the point where they have used this product. So think about that from the point of conception of the idea. And then that will also, be factored into the quality of the product you're
And
doing.
that's true.
Right.
You're already thinking about the type of company. as you're
Exactly.
thinking of products, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I say that the concept of branding, it flies over our heads most of the time because we just believe that it's just one big word that is over there. And then that's why I try to, relate it to human connections, personal connection. You're my friend, I'm your friend, I know you, this is what I think about you, and I like you because of that, and then we're friends. So it's the same way you attract customers, right? So that's just us,
Long and short of
long
it.
and short of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matthew, how about you?
It's time now. Sorry, your question was about storytelling and product.
Yes.
Storytelling is an essential part of product. Like you've built something and nobody understands what you built. All the best to you. It's like nobody will use it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. She mentioned something earlier, the Simon Sinek circle, where it's basically talk about how best to tell the story.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, you realize that as a product person or whatever product you're building, yes, the hero of the story is not your solution.
Yeah.
The hero of the story is the customer.
Customer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, they have to be the one to save the day using your product, pretty much. So your product is enabling them to solve the problem. Yes. So that's what storytelling is very essential at the end of the day, because it's a big difference between having a solution that works right and then something that it may solve the problem, but it's not being told that way, it's not being expressed that way. So you just end up having that really awesome stuff and nobody's aware of it, and nobody can use it because they don't know anything about it. Yes,
No context.
because I've seen people that have told the stories in a very great way, and you use the product and realize that that's not what it is. So that's how powerful storytelling can be.
Yeah.
You can convince somebody otherwise just by how well you tell that story.
Yeah.
So the best thing will be tell a good story, have a good product,
Yeah.
have them go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then to break down like the storytelling parts, that you can have pillars, right? And the storytelling doesn't have to be just about the product or the service that you're rendering. It can be about your culture. It can be about your people, right? And then
values.
exactly. So I mean, having those pillars and the different micro stories that you push out. In fact, your social media can feed from that whole story that you have, right?
It's
It's just
consistent.
about exactly. So you're telling different stories that mean the same thing essentially, because and that sort of emphasizes who you are in the minds of the audience, and then you win basically.
So that revelation that I released, that I was digesting, I saw storytelling from the perspective of making the customer the hero.
Yeah.
A lot of us make the product the hero
Yeah.
to prove that my product is
It's
working.
working. Yeah.
Instead of making the customer feel like the hero or make the customer the hero
Yeah.
for using the product to save the day.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I think that's the takeaway. That is a
It's very important.
maybe that's why today was created. That's why God created today.
It's very
That this
important.
word must go out. This revelation was released.
Absolutely.
It's really profound, and thank you so much for that. I'm noting that.
Can we? Thank you. I'm grateful that you find. Yeah, somebody's hand is
Someone's
up.
up,
But I want
Shay.
to ask you people if we can still
Can we
indulge them.
take one more question, please?
Can we take one more question?
Yeah,
Sure, for
I guess
me.
that's fine.
Thank you.
All right,
please go
Shay.
ahead.
Shay is our regular attendee. So please,
Customer.
we need to give him this time.
Loyalty rewards.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It's part of
It's
brand.
part of brand. Yeah.
Wahala.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Matthew, this question is for you. So I think from the HR circle, actually, your company is known. Okay, it's actually known.
Okay, it's in HR.
Ah,
I want to ask,
okay.
despite not being a medical doctor, okay, how are you able to get pricing right, especially for insurance? Okay, because if anybody is not taking insurance, the person is supposed to go to the clinic and actually pay certain the service that is what's being assessed. So how do you get in your product development? Do you take cognizance of the fact that some of these things, for instance, somebody that is going for headache and somebody that is going for ulcer treatment and all that, how are you able to get those pricing right? Did you involve medical doctor or something?
There's a doctor on the team.
Well, yes, one of the founders is a doctor. But his question is more around the pricing, not even the price for the insurance, the price that you pay at the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah, and that varies. That's a that's a matter of negotiation with the hospital. So we have different hospitals or different tiers based on how well we negotiated with them. But yeah, you don't necessarily need a doctor for that. Although we have our provider operations team that has medical people on it as well. So they are the ones that go out onboarding new hospitals, doing the negotiations with them, and getting those prices down, and then do renegotiations when necessary based on the economic changes and all. But yeah, so it's not necessarily a matter of your medical expertise. It's like not necessarily. It's like if you have a business development team in any company, for example, you're going around looking for partnerships and doing negotiations there. It's similar to the same thing too here. You go to the hospital, onboard the hospital, discuss prices with them, lock that down, and then anybody that goes there, you pay for what you've agreed.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Someone wants to find out, how do they reach you guys on socials or
On X.
That sounds very, very, very somehow.
How do we find your X?
how do we find you on
X marks the spot.
on LinkedIn and other social media platforms?
My name is Bolutife on all socials. Bolutife our account, so just search for it.
Awakon.
Let me
AW.
prepare them.
Yeah, who?
So yeah, you can.
Okay, please share our screen on the Zoom, please.
Shell.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Share
Please share a screen.
on my phone. And
Okay,
I'll do
yes,
my phone
okay.
and so you see it.
So can you see our email address and our contact details?
I'll take a screenshot and
All
share
right.
in the group.
Okay.
All
All right. And you negotiate my package.
We talk
about my package.
Yeah. But yeah, Matthew, I think I'm still the only first result for Matthew Mayaki on LinkedIn. So yes, Matthew Mayaki on LinkedIn. The name is not so common.
MM.
Oh yes, same as mine.
Do you have any
Mr.
other
Matthew
Emmy?
Mayaki.
That's
No,
MM.
no affiliations.
No abbreviations, please. All right. So thanks everybody, and we really appreciate you coming. And I know some of you got the notice short, as a quite short notice. We do not take your time for granted. We appreciate you, and please unmute. So let's thank our people. Thank them, and yes, and special people that came to the studio in-house physically.
For you.
We thank you for coming. I know the weather was drizzling somehow, and okay, but thank you so much. Thank you for coming. And by the way, our closeouts, hangouts, and networking event is on the 13th of August. I hope I got that right.
Yeah.
So everybody's invited. So, like I said, where I can meet my destiny helpers. Because if, for example, if I'm not here now and I said I'll listen on Zoom or something like that, I won't hear that rema that the Lord has directed this Matthew, not the tax collector one, the real Matthew. As he said,
Come and drop.
he said come and drop. We really appreciate that. So, until we see next week, I'll hand over to Chika.
Guys, please unmute yourself and appreciate our facilitators. Help us thank them.
Thank them for coming.
For coming, yes.
For coming. We really appreciate you.
And thank you for staying on the call too. Thank you for joining on Zoom too.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the knowledge.
Thank you.
Thanks for
All
having
right,
us.
so
Thank you.
till we see next week. We'll say wrap it up like this and keep your business a business. Thank you very much,
Thank you so
everyone.
much, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Amazing.
Thanks.
Thank you for having us.